All right. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Standing on Business podcast, where I'm your host, Chantal Taylor, and I'm the founder and owner of the Legacy Magazine MS. Today, we have a very special guest. I'm excited to share her with y'all. This is our first episode back. So, y'all already know how I come with good energy, laughs, vibes, and real good questions, okay? So today we have Dr. Linda J.M. Holloway. And let me tell y'all a little bit about her. She is phenomenal, okay? Very, very phenomenal. So I'm going to read a little bit and then we'll get into the questions and everything you all need to know about Dr. Linda. Dr. Linda J.M. Holloway is a counselor educator with over 30 years of experience in higher education. She is a spoken word artist, story activist, and multi award winning children book author with 8 published titles available on Amazon. A retired U.S. Army Reserve colonel with over 27 years of service and 4 combat tours. She lives by her motto, always willing to serve. Her work centers on women's mental wellness and career counseling for Black children, and she inspires others through her life philosophy. Sorry guys. Dream your own dream. So without further ado, I present to y'all Dr. Linda Holloway. How are you doing today?
I'm doing excited. I'm so happy to be here and thank you so much for all the work you're doing. Thank you for having me on the program. It's super exciting and I'm coming live all the way from Montgomery, Alabama.
Okay, we got
Yay!
Montgomery in the building, y'all, but don't get it twisted. She's a Mississippi girl.
Absolutely. Through and through and through.
So, Dr. Linda, before we get into these questions, tell us a little bit about yourself that I may have not mentioned in the little bit that I read about you.
As you mentioned, I am from the great state of Mississippi, by the way of Mount Bayou, Mississippi. I always like to tell people I'm from Mount Bayou, Mississippi. I grew up on a farm there with my family, my parents, 6 sisters, and 2 brothers. And I share that because those were the fundamental principles of where I learned so much about life growing up on the farm, like knowing to be in the season that you're in, about planting and picking and sharing and just having a sense of community. So I definitely wanted to share that. I grew up in a Christian home environment and just learning how to give and get along with others and have a sense of pride in yourself. Those are many of the things that Mount Bayou taught me. It's really
Okay, okay. I love that. See, now I ain't grow up with the country stuff. I was born in Detroit. But after Katrina, not after Katrina, after my mom passed when I was 3, we moved to New Orleans, and then after Katrina, I landed here in Jackson, Mississippi. And for the most part, it's okay. I've learned a lot since I've been here, and I actually love the people I've met. So it's not as bad as people make it. Mississippi is what you make of it. It's a lot you can do here if you just look around and find something. So, my first question for you, Dr. Holloway, what motivated you to write children's books?
There was a multitude of things in the area of academia. You have to have scholarship. You have to write, and as you mentioned, my area is mental women, Black women, and mental wellness. So, in doing that, there were several different topics that I write about. Whether it is Black women here in the marketplace, Black women in counseling, sickle cell disease, sexual assault. And so these were actually topics that I had already written about. But the thing about it is, when you're talking to an adult, oftentimes they will take you back to their childhood. And so they will often talk about, I was a tease as a little girl. I didn't like my hair when I was young. And so I began to think I really wanted to have a product that would serve as an intervention, a lesson plan, or some kind of curriculum that I can actually put in the hands and begin to talk to young children to kind of assist them with these challenges. And so there came the book. And being an educator, it only seemed right. I have a love and compassion for books. When I was growing up, my parents taught us to focus on reading, and so they always had us reading something, even if it was the Britannical Encyclopedia. If you told them that you didn't have any homework, you didn't have anything to do, they said get in there and read. And I think a lot of it had to do with these were individuals who had not finished high school. They probably had about a 7 or 8 grade education. And it was not because they did not want to, but society at the time did not allow them to. And so they wanted so much better for their children. And so it was always about education and reading. And so that allowed me to say, okay, I want to put books in the hands of children. And then when I began to also look at that, there was a high literacy rate, meaning that a lot of our children were not reading on the level that they should be reading. Now, I know many of you all probably say, oh, yeah, they can read. They can read. They can call out words. But reading is more than being able to call out words. It's being able to
Mhm.
comprehend what you have read, being able to dissect it, and being able to talk about it. I grew up on books such as um, See Spot Run. Never knew what Spot was running to, but Spot was running. And
Mhm.
but these are books that actually require them to think about certain things and to have a level of appreciation. And so I thought it was only appropriate to be able to have these books and to be able to put them hand in the children because many of the children do not have home libraries. And so we wanted to be able to give them a free copy of the book also. So those are the various reasons that led me into wanting to write children books.
That is amazing. I also write books. I don't write children's books. I've created like children's workbooks.
Mm-hmm,
My middle baby has autism.
mm-hmm,
And so I created a book for him because he has a hard time grasping things at times. And he feels bad about it. That's why I chose the homeschool. He feels bad about it. Of course, children would tease him about it. And I tell him it's okay to learn at your own pace. Don't feel
mm-hmm.
bad because you're not on the same level as other children. But I need to get some of your books.
Okay,
I
outstanding. I
really
would
think that
love
would
for
help
you
my
to have it.
baby.
I would love for you to have it.
Yes, ma'am. So, how have you been able to utilize your books?
I've been able to utilize my books in various forms. Obviously, I have to put myself out there. And what I mean by that is I have to make myself known because I'm not a popular author. People don't know about me. They don't just wake up in the morning and say, hey, I want to go read about what Dr. Holloway has written about. So I have been beating the bushes in terms of going to community service projects like I did the Boys and Girls Club. I have gone into various schools, church programs. So, and it's been well received, and people were actually, and I'm so grateful for social media. There are a lot of positive things. I know people think of mostly about the negative aspect, but once people post your information and put it out there, then other people see it and they contact you and say, hey, I want you to be a part of this. Of course, during COVID, I did some read out loud. So I've had various opportunities to get my book out into the atmosphere. So thank you. That was a great question.
Yes, ma'am. I love that. I love how active you are. I love that. So let me ask you this, because this is a very important question. Because a lot of people can write books,
Mhm.
but what is the impact that your books are having on children or women or people in general?
That is an excellent question, and thank you so much for asking that question. The impact is, I talked about the various topics, and I can take any one of those topics. Say, for example, I want to focus on my first book, which is I Love My Happy Hair. I say that because there have been many people who have been fired from their jobs. They passed the Crown Act. There have been many children who have been expelled from school because of the way they wore their hair, or they had some kind of policy that did not appreciate or celebrate their hair. And there have been many children who have not gone to school because they have been teased or bullied about their hair. So the impact of that project has been seen into, I have a project called the Anti-Hair Bully Campaign, also known as I Love My Hair. And this is where I go out into the schools and I target third graders. You may want to ask, well, why third graders? I think that's a great time to have that conversation and have a healthy conversation. So I have reached over probably about 4 or 5 thousand students just with that topic. And so being able to, so the impact is being able to deal with what we call social emotional learning. Because as we know, many of our children are dealing with anxiety, depression, sadness, loneliness, their suicide. And so when you think of these things and having a safe place, we often talk about creating a safe place, but I think it's as important to also have safe people because
Yes.
everybody ain't safe. They may have a safe place, but they may not be safe people and they may not be well enough to talk to you. And so being able to have a safe environment and a safe person that they can actually have this wholesome conversation with, because see, little Miss Tomato may not tell her mother she don't want two ponytails sticking up in the air. But her mother think that's the way I wore my hair. That's the way you're gonna wear your hair, and she does that. And so she doesn't feel adequate, and she doesn't feel good about herself. And so, but she's able to tell me, I don't like this style, but I didn't want to hurt my mom feeling. This is kind of an old style. I want to do something different. So
Yeah.
the impact is incredible. And also, when you have students and parents saying, my child reading has improved, because one of the things I did do, and I probably violated the rules of children book, is I have words in there. So they have a lot of words that they have to read. I also have what I call LOL, and these are learning out loud questions. And so what they do with these questions, they're able to interact with their parents, social worker, whoever they're reading the book with, to talk about questions and answering about the book. So it's having a tremendous impact. Thank you so much for that question.
No problem. I loved your answer. Oh my goodness. You helping me. Look, you helping me. I'm over here taking
And another
notes.
thing I want to share too, when we talk about impact, oftentimes people would think, oh, it has to be something big, something grand. But even if you're just doing something where people are asking for a donation for books. And so I teamed up with Chosen Pen, who was going across the water, and they were building libraries in South Africa. So I was able to get my books over there and help them out with that. So that's another way that the book is having an impact. So you can have it
That's
there.
amazing. I love that. Wow. You're phenomenal. I'm just gonna ahead and tell you, I ain't even made it to the fourth question, but you are very phenomenal. I'm very excited about this interview because you're teaching me something
with
now.
with the help of God.
Amen. And for everybody that's just tuning in, my name is Chantal Taylor. I am your host for the Standing on Business podcast, and I'm also the owner of the Legacy Magazine. And today we have Dr. Linda Holloway. So if you're just tuning in, come in, write some comments, answer some questions. We don't bite. We're very friendly, y'all. So let me ask you this, Dr. Linda. How did your experiences in the military and higher education influence your approach to storytelling and writing children's books?
Man, you have all the wonderful questions. I'm gonna answer that by, I know you asked me about higher education and the military. My experience with storytelling started way before that. It started in the great city of Mount Bayou, Mississippi. If you ever been around black folks, they're gonna tell you a story. If you get
Hmm.
yourself caught up in something or you're thinking about something, they're gonna say, sit down, young lady, sit down, young man. Let me tell you a story. And it's to teach you something, also to bring you history. And so storytelling has always been a part of my life. Even my parents, we would have these kaleidoscope books, we have stories, and we as a family literally would put on plays for our parents. They would come in the living, what we call the living room, the sitting room, and we were
Hmm.
actually, so storytelling has always been that common thread in my life. But being in higher education and reading about various things, and also being in the military, meeting various people, and learning just about leadership principles, definitely played a role. I would definitely say the educational part, because when in writing these books, even though I call them children books, they are topics that can reach across the gamut in terms of adults. And so I have, like I mentioned, I have a section in there where I have study questions. I might not would have done that had I not been an educator. So I wanted to serve more as a study guide, as a curriculum, something that you can build off. And I think that comes from my educational background. Also, I have scavenger hunts in each of the books. And so, like in the first book, I Love My Happy Hair, they have to find brushes. So there are brushes hidden throughout the book. I usually have them to do that, and I tell the parents have them do that after because I don't want the students or the children to focus on that and miss the story. And so
Right.
all of that comes in terms of being an educator. Also, would say that from a military perspective, we learned 7 rules of leadership and principles, and that was duty, honor, integrity. And so all of this is important. So when I'm working with a graphic artist, if I'm working with the indie publishing company, I demonstrate that and have that same expectation from them. And it can be very discouraging if you don't get that, because at the end of the day, you want somebody, if they told you they're going to do something, you kind of expect that they're going to do it. And so if they don't send me a contract, then I'm going to say, okay, let's talk about timeline. Even, you probably saw a little of that when I was engaging with you. Like,
Oh
okay,
yeah, you
when
don't
are,
play.
like, when are we coming on? What should be the expectation? So I would say all of that comes from being in the military. Also, the military just taught me a lot of wonderful things about service. And so, I mentioned the project. I started that project. It's self-funded. It's very expensive, but that's my service that I give back to the community. I've been doing it for 3 years. I'm coming up on the last year because obviously I got to figure out a way to make some finances to pay for all of this. But being able to go out and underserved, underprivileged, marginalized communities, oppressed communities, and being able to give away the books for free. And oftentimes people say, okay, tell me what, I got 100 students. Is there a catch to this? And they think it's something else. And I was like, no. So being a leader, you have to be trustworthy. And so
Mhm.
it helps to build trust and establish trust. So I would say from the military was definitely that leadership principle. Also, the military taught me never leave anybody behind, never give up. And so in doing that, if someone calls and asks me about certain things, I try to inform them and tell them because we're all learning together. And we all gonna make some mistakes and we all gonna fall down, but we are there to encourage one another and to be there for one another and try not to leave other behind. There's other authors out there that people say, oh, I really want to do it. I really want to write a book. And they think that there's something magical or you something unique, but I say you just got to do it. I know it sounds really kind of cliche, but you got to put the pen to the paper or your fingers to the keyboard. You got to start somewhere, and you got to
Mhm.
know that it may never be perfect, but it's perfect enough for you to say, I'm going to release this. This is my story. I want to share it. And so the military taught me persistent and to never give up. I've gotten some negative comments. I've gotten people to say, oh, these are trauma books. These are not books that I would read to my kids. But I said, guess what? But you okay reading the big bad wolf that blew down somebody's house, that they need their home to live in. You okay with
Mhm.
reading about Goldilocks, who when it broke in somebody's home, she done ate these people food up. And we know what's going on in that area. Food is too high for somebody to be coming in eating your food and then have the
Right.
audacity to lay in your bed. But
Right.
you
Just rude.
but you're okay with reading those stories. So and so I just have fun with it. But they were learning stories. They are classical stories, and I learned a lot. But I told them it's more than you get. Because one of the things my book does, and that's why I call myself a story activist, is to activate things within the community. So they take a negative situation and turn it into something positive. Because even in I Love My Happy Hair, she sings a song. She has the kids to have a pledge. All my books have a pledge where they sign, not all of them, because the divorce and death book doesn't, where they sign saying, I will not bully or tease anyone. Doesn't matter race, creed, or color about their hair, because the way your hair grows out of your head is the way your hair grow. And we don't always know everybody's story. Sometimes people can have an illness. It just could be a multitude of things as to why their hair is the way it is. A lack of hair for that reason.
Yeah, and that is so true because growing up, I've always had very thick, coarse, long hair. But when I got sick, I'm gonna say within like the last 3 years, my hair began to fall out. And then I went through a spell where I was just so insecure about it falling out. I just took some clippers and cut it off and went bald. And then the next day, I'm looking in the mirror like, why did you do that? And then I just thought about it. I was like, it's me, it's not people, because people wasn't really making me feel that way. It was the way I felt about myself because I was so used to looking this way and
Mm-hmm.
now I look that way. So I wear wigs a lot, I wear braids, but I'm trying to get my hair back to the point where I'm happy wearing it natural. I loved being natural. And I love everything about me. I'm learning. Like cancer has a way of making you feel a certain
Mm-hmm.
way about yourself. It tears down your self-esteem. Some days you feel ugly because the chemo and radiation and things are changing your skin, the medication. But I'm learning now that I am cancer free to love myself the way I am, and that it's okay to start over, and things will work out. And I don't feel like I'm ugly, but when I look in the mirror, I want to be happy with what I see. Like I don't want all the spots and the bruises and stuff from when I was dealing with that. But I realized that is a part of my journey. And
Yes.
one day it'll help somebody. A lot of times people see
Mm-hmm.
my story, oh my God, what happened? And then I tell them my story and they be like, wow. Or they'll see my hair and be like, your hair ain't that bad. I'm like, girl. But I'm just having to learn to love myself. So that was a good point. I really love that. I want that book because I think it can help me with myself. Even though I know children may can learn from it, I feel like adults can learn from that too. So
And I
that's
like the idea you use the term "help me to learn" because there are a lot of things as African Americans and Black people we have to unlearn because society says nappy hair meaning something derogatory, a wide nose, thick lips. So it has not portrayed us in a very positive way. So we have to unlearn those things and
Mhm.
learn that we are beautiful, wonderfully made, just simply the way we are. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. And sometimes, even growing up in families, people would say, "Get your ugly self in here. You
Mhm.
so ugly."
And words hurt.
Yeah. They
And
say
they
sticks and
stick to
stones.
children.
That exactly. We learned was the saying says sticks and stones will break your bone, but words don't hurt. Yes, words do hurt, and they cut real deeply. You know.
Yeah, and if you don't channel those things while you're young, like if no one's helping you to correct them while you're young, you'll grow up and be a bitter adult because you'll remember all those things that people said to you. Like my children, when they get into it, they like to call each other stupid. I say, don't do that.
Mhm.
Or my middle child, like I said, he has autism. He doesn't catch on as quick as
Mhm.
my other two. And the oldest one, sometimes he'll be joking with him. He'll be like, you acting stupid. You being dumb. I'm like, don't do that
Mhm.
because he already feels the type of way. So you saying it don't do nothing but make it worse. So I try to teach my children to not use those type of words. And then I tell my kids, y'all are way more harsh than the children I grew up with. Like they would tease you, but they ain't go as far as these children go now. And I just try to instill in them the importance of using your words the right way. Be mindful of what you say to people. It can hurt them, it can stick with them, and it can cause them to be bitter, angry, just mad at the world. I used to be a child like that. I
Mhm.
was mad at the world, and it was just mainly I was bullied because I moved from Detroit to New Orleans, so I was proper at the time the way I talked. People didn't
Mhm.
like the fact my grandmother kept my hair so nice. I always had something new every 2 weeks, things like that. My grandmother raised me when my mom died when I was 3, so she was kind of strict on us,
Mhm.
but she made sure to kind of keep up with the trend. She didn't want us really being bullied, which it didn't really bother me much. Some of the stuff did, but not much of it. But words really do hurt. And sometimes I could sit back and my kids would do something and it'll take me back to somebody did to me. And I'm like, wow, that's still in my brain after all these years. But that stuff really hurts and it really affects people. So that is very important to be mindful what you say to people, to children in general. Because words matter and they hurt. And
Mhm.
people will keep that in the back of their mind. Like if you tell me I'm not good enough for something and
Mhm.
I know I'm good at it and I'm good
Mhm.
enough at what I do,
Yeah.
you done already put in my mind that you feel I'm not good enough. So now what I do is instead of letting that make me feel some type of way, I just go harder. I apply more pressure. I keep going and I show them, well, you said I couldn't do it, but now I'm really doing it. So
Mhm.
that's
Mhm.
very important. The comments, Adrian said, this is a lot of great information, Dr. Holloway. Thank you to Legacy Magazine, Chantal Taylor for doing this. Let me get on my feet and stand on some major business. And she said, you got that right. Cancer can do a number on you mentally and physically. That is so true, Adrian. That is so true. That's one of my friends. She's a business owner. She has cancer as well. She deals with a lot. So
Mm.
I know that this interview today is really going to help her because we talk a lot. And sometimes you just need to hear from somebody else, somebody you may
Right.
not know. I feel like if I say something to you or you say something to me and then it comes back full circle with somebody you don't even know, that's God trying to get your attention. That's how I look at things. So
Mhm.
This interview is really gonna help a lot of people because it's helping me. I'm probably gonna cry when I get off here. You got me a little teary eyed.
Well, hey, Adrian, thanks for taking out time out of your schedule to be here. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
So let me ask you this. You may have
Sure.
touched on this, but I'm gonna ask you anyway.
Mhm.
What do you hope children take away emotionally after reading your stories? And how do you see that shaping their future?
I think those questions are not mutually exclusive, so I'm gonna answer them collectively, not separately. What I hope that they would take away in is that, self pride, dignity, respect, understanding of various topics, and being able to critically analyze and support that, and empathy as well as sympathy. And the reason I say that because I do have two books. One is on divorce, and one is on death, and so you have to be empathetic and have some sympathy in reference to that. When I think in terms of dignity and pride, is because there's one book and it's called Little Miss Linda Speaks Out About Diversity. And what she's doing is she's talking about colorism, and she's talking about dark skin versus light skin. So being able to have a sense of pride and dignity, that is what I'm hoping, and learn to respect yourself, but also the people that are around you. And
Yes. Oh, you can go ahead. I'm sorry.
and I was just gonna say, of course, I want them to take away the ability to be able to feel confident in their reading, because when I grew up, like even in the church, they would say, "Okay, you take this verse, you take that verse," and I would literally try to make sure that if I had verse number 6, that I had kind of was reading it before it got to me. And there were sometimes people would not want to read out loud because they just didn't want to be, mispronounce a word or anything like that, or feel like that they were ridiculed. So when you start having children to read out loud, to enunciate and pronounce it, it gives them that level of confidence.
Yes, I agree. And I wish my grandmother was here, rest her soul. But I wish she was here to hear you say that statement when you said about dark skin and light skin. My grandmother was a very beautiful woman. She was dark skinned. She was very chocolate. I loved it. I called her my black beauty. She was so beautiful to me in every aspect. It wasn't just her looks, it was just everything about her. I really admired my grandmother. We didn't always have the best relationship, but the things I learned from her, the way she carried herself. She was just a beautiful woman, but she had an issue. She had self-esteem issues. She did not like her skin. And she felt because she had eczema and that she was kind of dark, that she just wasn't beautiful. And that hindered her a lot. She never remarried after my grandfather died. She didn't want to date people. She just didn't like herself. I used to always tell her, like, you are so beautiful. Like, what is wrong with you? But she had a problem with that. And the reason she had the problem with that is because when her mom died when she was 14, she had already had a child. She was pregnant with her second one, and they made her marry my grandfather. And when she would go to job interviews, it would be the other people. They would make her feel less than what she was
Mhm,
because of how
mhm,
dark she was. And I used
mhm,
to tell her, Grandma, that shouldn't have mattered. You know you're beautiful, But the problem was she lacked that confidence she needed to have. She was very educated, just all around phenomenal. But that one thing stuck with her. She did not like herself. And I couldn't understand, like, how could someone so beautiful not like themselves? And I find myself some days, like I said, I look in the mirror and I be like, ugh, And I'd be like, I wonder if that's how she felt when she got up. And I wish I had somebody like telling me, like, hey, you're beautiful. Love the skin you're in. Be confident. It took me so long to get to the point where I'm confident with myself. It took me forever to be myself.
mhm,
Like this
mhm.
version you getting me like this happy-go-lucky person. This wasn't me 4 years
Right.
ago. I wasn't a people person. I didn't really want to talk to people. I didn't want to be in people's face. But I'm learning and I'm evolving every day. And I really wish my grandma could have heard you say that because I think that would have helped her. She was such a beautiful woman. That's why when you first got on the thing, I was like, oh my God, you are so cute. Like, I'm that woman. Like, if I
Right.
feel you're beautiful, I'm going to tell you, I'm going
Yes.
to build your confidence up because you never know, somebody might not have it that day and they just need that
Right.
little push, make them feel good. So I'm glad you said that. So if y'all on here, you are all beautiful. No matter what
Absolutely.
shade you are, no matter what people tell you, you are beautiful in your own way. And God created all of us the way He wanted us to be. So don't try to change nothing about yourself.
Yeah,
Unless it's unless you're trying to be healthy.
there's a lot of psychology to what you said, and we just want to praise and thank the ancestors for doing all the things they did in spite of, because they lived in a world where the standard of beauty did not celebrate who they are. If you think about James Brown coming along saying, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. There was a
Mm-hmm.
reason why he came up with that. Marvis Garvey was like, take don't take the kinks out of your hair, take it out of your mind. There was a reason because society said that if you look like this, if you talk like this, if you are of this, then you are not worthy. Because you got to remember, we were not even considered to be human beings. And
Mm-hmm.
so when you come out of that as a product, you're going to have the residual of all of that psychological trauma, post traumatic stress. And so now we're going through a phase where we're doing post traumatic healing from
Mm-hmm.
all of the things that people have been told. You're black and you're ugly, or when you have to understand the history. I love history around colorism. And it was like if the closer proximity you was to looking white, being white, then you were going to be accepted. If you were of the darker hue, the closer, then you were going to be rejected, whether it was in the movies, videos. So you're still seeing that today. You're still seeing sometimes when babies are born in the black community, they say, look at the tip of their ear. You can tell how dark they're going to be. They don't talk about, oh, look at the tip of their ear and tell how rich they're going to be or how what a nice person they're going to be. So all of these things feed into our memory, into our mind, and we carry these wounds. It's a very abusive society
It
that will
is.
tell people that you are nothing, and so you're fighting against all of these things. So I grew up in a town that was discovered by former enslaved individuals. So I grew up in an environment seeing black dentists, lawyers and things like that. And so it was very encouraging. I never really thought of my father as being a business person, even though he owned land and he was a farmer. But later now I'm thinking, man, he did because he employed people. But I say that to say, because you're not told that you're a business person. You're not told. So even the black farmers had a hard time. They were fighting a battle because they didn't get the money that they were supposed to get. So, it was like your field don't look as good as our field. And so my
Mm-hmm.
dad was intentional about every year when the cotton would grow, he wanted to go down and let those white people, I'm gonna pick the first bale of cotton and it's going to be good cotton. And we knew
Mm-hmm.
we had to get out there because there was something about that. And so those things are very important. The culture we live in. So we have two things going on here. What is saying externally and what is saying internally. You're saying, oh, I wish she didn't digest that. I wish she didn't let that impact her. But, you got to understand the culture and the context in which she was constantly heard that.
Yeah. And her time of growing up was totally different than mine because when she would tell me some of the stories, I'd be like, what? Especially when she told me they made her get married at 14. I said, you were just a kid. You hadn't even lived your life yet. And when she would tell me some of the stories, I would literally be in tears because I was like, wow. And then I say, Lord, thank you that I didn't grow up in a time like that. I don't think I could have handled it. She had been through a lot. So
Mm,
I cherished my grandmother. I learned a lot from her just from being with her. And I'm grateful that God gave her to me as the person to raise me and as my grandmother. Because without her, y'all wouldn't even know me. She the one who gave me the confidence to share myself with the world. So I'm grateful for her. Adrian said that entire statement about confidence is hitting me hard, my Lord. Yes, you got the. If you're not confident with yourself, you can't expect other people to see you, as confident. That's how I look at it. I try to carry myself even when I don't feel confident. You wouldn't know because
right.
in my mind, I'm like, I'm not going to show them I'm not confident. But every room I walk in, I try to be confident, even if I'm nervous, if I'm scared, if I don't feel comfortable. I still try to be confident. Then when I walk out, I'm like, like a sense of relief. But I'm the type of person. People say I'm confident. I don't know if I should say it's confidence, but I'm the type of person when I walk in the room, I adapt to the energy in the room. I'm an energy person. So like if the energy and vibe is off, I'm gonna be kind of looking like, what's going on? And I'm gonna try to live it up, but I
Hmm.
definitely
Hmm.
go by vibes and energy. And I'm just the type of person, I love to talk, I love to meet new people, and I'm grateful for that. Because, like I said, I was not an individual. Like the Adrian knows, I wasn't a friendly individual. If I call you a friend, you're really my friend. I've had the same friends for my best friend. Me and her has been friends since 1995. So it's 2026 now, so that's a long time. So,
That's great.
yes, I have another question for you.
Okay, great.
Can you share a specific story or moment where one of your books made a real difference in a child's life?
Oh, absolutely. And I have many. I know you said text to one, and I know, well, on time. Um, I was at this one particular school, and a young lady came up to me and said, I am so glad that we had this topic today on hair. I said, Told me why. She said, I have been missing school because my mother couldn't afford to get my hair done. But she said, but when I came to school, I had a hat on, and they told me to take my hat off. And people were teasing me about my hair. So I just stayed away from school. And boy, my heart dropped because we know that there's a relationship between people being in school, whether it's homeschool or whatever the case may be, and their level and ability to learn and to social react. So without her not being in school, her academic performance was suffering, but also it was an attack on her self-esteem. So that particular story and being able to talk to the children about not teasing their hair. So there's a part in the story where I do mirror exercising, and this is little Miss Linda mother tells her because little Miss Linda doesn't like her hair. She doesn't have hair like her sister. She wants the long, flowy hair, but she doesn't. But her mother tells her to appreciate her hair the way her hair is. So she said, I want you every morning when you get up, I want you to look in the mirror and say, mirror, mirror on the wall. I have the prettiest hair of them all. If they're young guys, I say, mirror, mirror on the wall. I have the coolest hair of them all. And I tell them to do it with an attitude. So they're stroking and doing. And she said that really meant a lot to her. And also for the other kids there to see that, you know, everybody hair is different. So that's one of my stories.
I love that because you know what? India said it in a song. I'm
Hmm.
not my hair. I'm not the skin. I love that. I love that.
Hmm.
So yes, that's nice. Because my oldest son, he don't be liking his hair when he get his hair cut right. For some reason, he be having his kid and play haircut when he finished because he's growing his hair out in the middle. You know, he get his taper around the sides. And one day we was in the store and he was so mad. He messed up my hair. He cut it. And I was kind of mad too. I said, "No, why would he do that to my baby hair?" You know, I was mad. And we
Hmm.
was in the store and the older guy, he was very old. And he stopped. He said, "Man, I like your hair." And my son just lit up and I said, "See, we might didn't like it, but someone else does." And he
Hmm.
said, "That take me back to my childhood. That's the kid in play." And I'm like, "What?" And I didn't look at it like that. And so after that, my son was like, "I'm gonna wear it like this for a while. I like it." So that was like a month or so
Hmm.
ago. We just braided his hair back like 2 days ago. And I was like, "Wow, you look so different. I probably should have left it like it was." But I love that because that was a learning moment for him that
Hmm.
just because you don't like something about yourself doesn't mean someone else doesn't. And so I love when they get to interact with people like that. And it made his whole demeanor change. Like his whole face lit up. He could not stop smiling the whole time we was in the store. I was like, "You
Hmm.
all
Yeah,
right?" When his
absolutely.
confidence was on another level, then you couldn't tell him nothing. So let me ask you this. Why is it so important for children, especially Black children, to see themselves reflected in stories about emotions and healing?
Representation, representation, representation. But also, when we talk about emotional healing, we have to think about all of the things and challenges that our children face, whether it's suicide, whether it's depression, violence in school, violence in the community. And so it's important for them to be able to dissect that because we deal with what we call collective grief. And so if there's someone you think about, and this was pivotal for a lot of people, and this is not the only one, obviously. George Floyd, that impacted, even I don't know George Floyd, you don't know George Floyd, people didn't know, but that was a Black man, that this happened to. Or when we see someone running through the neighborhood, we say, oh, that could have been my son, that could have been my husband, my brother, my uncle. So we are individuals who think collectively. And so when one thing happened to one, we feel like this can happen to all of us. And so being able to talk with children, because you got to understand cognitively, if we have adults of feeling like we can't process what's happening. You can only imagine what young children are doing. It's like, well, I don't know, because your parent are usually the individuals that are there, or your guardian to protect and provide, that you can go to. But they saying, look, I don't know what just happened. I don't feel safe. And so now you got children feel like, I don't feel safe. Or let's talk about the violence that happened in Tennessee. It's no longer Sandy Hook. It's no longer, it's in these neighborhoods where people thought, I thought in a million years this would never happen, because you thought that it was only happening on the other side of town. But now
Hmm.
it's happening everywhere. Or there was a time when there was shooting in Walmart and people just didn't know. And so being able to have children where they can say, I'm feeling this way. Or, because I grew up and you would say, oh, I'm feeling down. You ain't got nothing to be sad about. What you got to be
Hmm.
sad about? But if a child comes to you and say, I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling down, I'm feeling bad about, somebody who just transitioned, or something happened to someone, then that's an opportunity to talk about that. Or maybe your child didn't get teased at school. Maybe your child, because I have a book on sickle cell, maybe your child doesn't have sickle cell, but they feel that. They have feelings. And
Hmm.
so that's where that is. And then to be able to have empathy, sympathy, and respect for other people. So it's extremely important,
It is,
because what
because
you repress, you will express, and you may not express it in a very positive way.
that is so true. I was just gonna say that. And my 6 year old, right before I got on here with you today, he come in the room, I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, I'm sad. I said, well, what's wrong, baby? You want to talk about it? No, I'm just sad. I said, well, come here, let me give you a hug. And I hugged him and I kissed him on his forehead. And I said, whatever's wrong is going to be okay. Then he went back to being normal. I said, well, something really wrong with you. You just wanted me to love on you. And then my middle baby, he was not handling grief well. When my
Mhm,
grandmother passed, it was
mhm,
very unexpected. It started
mhm.
from her getting a COVID shot that Monday,
Mm,
and she got sick instantly that day. Me and my child's father, we was together at the time. We was taking turns taking care of her. And this particular morning, I was tired of going to her house sitting all day. I'm like, something has to be done. She did not want to go to the hospital. And I took her, and I'm so glad I did, because she
mhm.
was dying in front of me every day. And I
Wow.
didn't know. It took for her to breathe. Like if you've ever seen a dog passing away, they have that real, it's a certain breathing they have. It
Mhm,
sounds way. And she was sounding, I'm like, I don't like this. I took her to the hospital. My grandmother was gone by that Sunday. And my oldest son, he showed emotion, but not like you would expect. It was more so like he was trying to hold it in, or he
mhm,
was in shock. Cause I was really in shock. I couldn't cry right then. I was more so like, is this really happening? But my middle baby, I noticed a big change in him. He went from being this nice, quiet little boy to cutting up at school. I had to go get him every day. And one day I just asked him, saying, what's wrong? He was like, I miss my grandma. And he didn't know how to handle his
mhm,
emotions
mhm,
with
mhm,
her passing. And when we went to her funeral, everything he was feeling finally came out. He was just sobbing and sobbing. And I felt bad because I'm like, here I am, his mother. I can barely hold my emotions together on
mhm,
how I
mhm,
feel about this, because this is the woman who raised me. She's all I've known my whole life. So
mhm,
I feel like
mhm.
my life was over when I lost her. So I'm already drowning, and I'm not thinking like my kids are drowning too, because I
Absolutely.
was so I was so gone. Like my mind, I couldn't think straight. And when I finally sat down and had a conversation with him, it blew my mind, because he was able to tell me exactly what he was feeling. And I told him, I said, I am so sorry if you felt I didn't notice. I said, but I'm trying to learn my emotions just like you. And I said, maybe we can help each other. We can start talking to each other about things. So now when he feels the type of way, he'll come knock on my door, Mom, can I talk to you? And we talk. And I don't care if I got to cry with him, I got to
Mhm.
lay in the floor with him, whatever it takes to get him to release what he's feeling, and I can help him. I love that. So that was very good, because even as adults, we struggle with our emotions at times, especially
Absolutely.
if it's something fresh. Because I've dealt with death before, but with my grandmother passing, that was probably one of the worst pains I felt in my life. It almost felt worse than childbirth. I was like, oh my God. I said, Lord, what is going on? My grandma?
Mhm,
And and I also had to look at it like this. My grandmother was the pillar of my family.
mhm,
Everybody ran to her for everything. I do not come from a big family. I probably do have a big family. I don't know everyone. But like I said before, my grandmother was a very emotionalist person. And most times you'll see her show emotion is at church. But like at home and stuff, she was just this hardcore woman. And I grew up being the same way as her. And so I'm just now getting to the point where I could be kind of soft and
Right,
understanding and compare.
right.
And I said, Lord, this is crazy. But that was really good what you said, because yeah, we all struggle at something. And me personally, as an adult, I'm 34 and I still struggle with my emotions at times. Like I'm trying, like somebody could make me mad, and the first thing I do is attack them. And then I'm like,
Hmm.
no, that's not right. So now
Hmm.
when people
Hmm.
do something that make me mad, I may not say nothing. I may be thinking it, but I don't want to just attack people because I'm angry and I can't channel my emotions another way. So it's a learning process. But I think it's important when they're children to start small. So when they get older, they will be much better off, because I don't want my kids to grow up like I did. I still get told to this day, you're so rough. And I'm like, you know what? I really do want to be soft, because I want to be married one day and I don't want my husband to be afraid of me. You know, like I don't want
But
him to be like, girl, you are crazy. No, I want him to see that I have compassion and
mhm.
empathy and things like that. I don't want to be so hard up in the shell all the time. So that is something I am learning. I'm really grateful for this interview, because you're really helping me. I know we talking about your children's books, but these books aren't just for children, y'all. These for
Absolutely, absolutely.
everybody. Everybody can learn something. And I hope people come back and watch this interview, because this is a really good interview. If you have problems with your emotional and just healing or anything in general, this is really good. This is
And I just want to circle back and kind of connect the dots when we talk about grief or we talk about loss. It doesn't have to be a person. It could be the loss of a job, the loss of a
mm,
relationship. So when grandmother made this transition, you didn't just lose just that. You lost a system that was in place. You lost
mm-hmm,
that go-to person. You lost that, so there was a lot of losses that were in that. And even just, listening to your story, moving from Detroit to New Orleans, you lost that community to and be in this community, and then to be transported by Katrina. So you had to deal with a lot of loss. So sometimes when we don't, and that one thing, think about it like a thread. And somebody said, you got a thread. You say, oh, don't pull that, because if you pull that ravel, everything gonna come apart. So you just tiptoeing around, looking real cute, and then finally one day you have to pull that ravel, and everything that you once knew start coming. So you don't know if you're crying about Katrina. You don't know if you're crying about the loss of, you mentioned to me you got cancer early on in life, the loss of what you could have been if this had not attacked your body. So there's just a lot going on there.
mm-hmm,
And so, because now, guess what? That one little ravel that you have been trying to tuck in, and we all have them sometimes. Sometimes I have myself, ooh, if I pull this whole garment is gonna fall apart, and I don't want that. And so, finally, one day I have to pull it, and guess what? It all comes apart, and I have to sit there and sit with that and do that. And that's where the post traumatic care, that's where the post traumatic self care come in, and we have to
mm-hmm,
sit in it and deal with it. And like you said, cognitively, but if we don't have the tools, then we don't know how to deal with that. Because
mm-hmm.
somebody has said something negative to me at school today. And what I was told, if somebody hits you, you better hit them back.
I
It
was
was some
told
little,
that.
it was some little commercial. I don't know what was going on tip top, and I don't know all the details around it. But the little girl, she said, if somebody da 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 da, you pop 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 pop. And I thought, oh my gosh, And then she throw down your backpack and just go at it. And I thought, well, what if they brush up against you? What if they didn't mean to do it? What if there's a moment to find out what their anger is about? You know, but
Mm-hmm,
and it was just going viral about it, and I know it might have been fun, laughing, and that sort of thing, but it can be very challenging. So how do we deal with this? Because if we don't, then when we get to be adults, then we find ourselves not being angry, being not knowing how to handle our emotions. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't get upset. I'm not saying you shouldn't fight back. I'm not saying any of those things. But just make sure that that's what you want to do for the response, because everything has a consequence. So when I decide
mm-hmm,
to do this, and some people say this, I knew when I went in there and told off, it was time for me to pack my bag and leave this job. I was already leaving anyway. So just be prepared for it.
Yeah.
And you
And
tell your
you
children that to know what the consequences are.
and you know what? It's crazy that you said it because growing up, my grandmother was like, look, don't be at school just fighting for, but if somebody hits you, you tear them up. And she used to tell us, and don't come back here and you the lost, because I will tear you up and take you back. And I used to be like, is you crazy? And I used to be scared to fight. My best friend Marissa, she used to fight for me. I used to be so terrified. I knew I didn't grow up, my
Right.
grandmother didn't raise us like that. So growing up in Detroit and then moving to New Orleans, I had never been into a fight. When I did get into my first fight, my grandma was like, I can't believe you did that. And then that's when she started saying, look, you get beat up again, I'm gonna have to beat you up. So I never lost the fight after that because I didn't want to get in trouble. But I do tell my children, I tried not. It's a lot of things I learned as a child that I don't feel was pretty good. So I try not to throw it on my children, but then sometimes I catch myself, look, now somebody hit you, you better him back up. I'm like, Lord, here I am back to this. But I want them to understand, yeah, people are going to hit you. Sometimes people are not hitting you intentionally. Because back in the day, you could bump me and I'm about to
Mm.
fight you because you done
Oh
bumped me.
yeah.
Like, why are you bumping me? And it could have been a mistake. So I always tell them that everything is not intentional. No one is not always trying to hurt you. You're going to know when somebody's trying to hurt you or when somebody's trying to pick a fight with you. And it's okay to walk away sometimes too. You don't have to be the big bad wolf because everybody egging y'all on. It's okay to walk away. Let them think you're scary. That doesn't mean you're scary. You just being a bigger person. So I try to get away from that because a lot of my brothers and sisters in them, I have a lot of brothers and sisters. I have 14 or 15 brothers and sisters that I know of. And we all have children. They tell me, say, somebody hit you, you better. And I'm like, y'all gonna get us all sent to jail. Cause why would
Yeah.
y'all tell them that? Cause that's what's
Yes.
gonna happen. Nobody wants their child hit on.
So yeah, we have to learn how to emotional regulate and manage our emotions. I grew up in a time, you're talking about hitting. It was a time when somebody turned around and say, "You looking at me? Why you looking at me?" And then from that looking at me to I'm gonna look you down, stare you down, it can lead, it can escalate. So teaching children how to de-escalate because,
Yes.
and then sometimes people say, "I wasn't looking at you. I was just looking over that day." Oh, you were looking at me, and I'm like, "Oh Lord."
Cause how you know maybe they wasn't multitasking with their eyes. They could have been looking at
I
something
don't know
else.
if anybody else on the line knew that. I don't know if that's still a thing today, but
I'm
that
not gonna lie, I used to do that. I be and look, and sometimes I still catch myself. I'm like, friend, why is that person looking at me? And then I just be like,
mhm.
and then they'll turn their head, and I'm like, well, maybe they weren't looking at me. Maybe I just weirded them out by looking at them. You just never know.
They might have
That's
been admiring you. They might have been saying she looked like somebody that I know. You
And
know,
most of the
it's
time, that's what
so
it
there's
be.
a
They be like,
it's a
they be
diff.
like, aren't you that girl from TikTok that be dancing? I be like, yep, that's me. Don't you do this? Don't you? And now I'm getting to the point that I realize like people really know me. So when I go places, people ain't just staring me down, just be staring. They trying to make sure I'm the person that they think I am. Cause I do that sometimes. I can see a face because I'm not good with names all the time. But I
Yeah.
remember a face, and I was on a podcast yesterday, and I was telling the person that was interviewing me, which was Dr. Bookhart. I
Mhm.
remember him. He took care of my grandmother when she
Wow.
passed away. And I was the only person at the hospital to see my grandmother when she passed away. And he was so nice to me. He was so nice. He was
Wonderful.
compassionate and he
Hmm.
just showed empathy. And I never forgot him. I didn't remember his name, but I never forgot his face. And even though back then he had a mask on because it was during COVID
Right.
time,
Absolutely.
and so I featured a young lady in the magazine named Chef Shell. And she was on his podcast that day and she sent it to me and I watched it and I'm like, oh my God, this that man. I just kept saying this that man. So I inboxed him and I tried to play it off by asking for a magazine feature, right? And after I featured him, I'm like, I'm just gonna go ahead and ask him. I said, did you work at Merit Health in 2021, in August of 2021? He was like, yes. I said, I think you the doctor who took care of my grandmother.
Mm.
And he's like, well,
Wonderful.
what was her name? I said Gloria Taylor. And he remembered every detail. That
Wow.
let me knew that was him.
Hmm.
And because of that, we have built a great relationship. And I was on
Awesome.
his podcast yesterday and we were just talking about different things. And he was like, you just never know who you
Right.
know. You never know who know you. So I try to be mindful that when I go out, if I'm sitting by myself and somebody just looking and I'd be like, oh okay, back to what I was doing. Then they walk up, can I buy you a drink or something? I know you from such and such. I'm like, really? I be feeling
No,
special. I
that's
be feeling like
wonderful.
a little celebrity, y'all.
And that's okay. You are.
Look, I'm trying. My grandma put in my mind, she was like, you have $1 million mind. She was like, you have the mind to be
Mm,
somebody. And when she told me that, it just woke up something in me because my
well,
grandmother wasn't
wonderful.
the type to tell you she loved you all the time or she was proud of you. But I remember when I became the first one in my family to graduate high school, she was so proud. She just kept
Mm,
bragging, kept bragging, kept bragging. And I just recently in October graduated from school. Well, got my degree. My graduation is in May, but I know she would have been so happy
wow, that's
because I'm the
wonderful.
first college graduate in my family. And right behind
Absolutely
me is my little sister. She'll be graduating soon. And I said, Lord, thank
wonderful.
you, because I never thought that I would hold that. But my family holds me as such a high pedestal. And I'm like, why? My grandma always told me that. She's like, they're going to be coming to you when I'm not here. You're going to be the one to keep everybody together. You're going to be the one to get this family out the hood. You know, black people love to say, oh, I'm finna get out the hood when something good happen. But
Right.
I'm just grateful. And another thing a lot of people don't know about me, I did do basic training for the Marines, but I found that I was pregnant. And so I just stopped.
Oh, okay.
But I always wanted to be a Marine, not because I liked what they did. It was mainly
Hmm.
because I liked their uniforms. I thought they were
Right.
so cute. And so I had ended up going to basic training for that. That probably would have been my path in life if I would have
Hmm.
continued that. But
Hmm.
God has a way of working things out. After I thought about it, I was like, that ain't something I want to do. Like, but I wasn't thinking of it like back then. You weren't thinking of first thing I'm thinking of go to college or go to the military. And
Hmm.
I eventually I went to college, but then I had my baby. Then I took a break. But I'm gonna say about 3 years ago, I just decided to go back. I'm like, you know what? Go back to
Well,
school.
good for you.
Education is everything. And I was like,
Yes.
I own all these businesses. I wanted to be a lawyer. I
Hmm.
stopped in the middle. I was almost at the finish line with my degree to be to do law, and I stopped. I lost my thrill somewhere in there. Once I started doing the magazine, I said I need a degree in business because I'm doing
Right.
business,
Right.
and so that's what I took up. And because of that, that is why I'm going so hard this year with my business because I learned so much in school. And a lot of people
Wow.
say school ain't teaching you nothing. If you
Hmm.
pay attention, you
Hmm.
probably not gonna like everything you learn, but if you pay attention to certain stuff, like my writing skills came from me paying attention in
Mm,
school.
great.
I never knew I could write. I would just write, like, back when I was little, I had a diary. You
Hmm.
just write about what you're feeling, what you're going
Hmm.
through. I was good with that because I couldn't go to my grandma to say, Grandma, this person hurt me or this person did that to me.
Hmm.
Because it was instances where I was essaying and things like that. And I couldn't go to her and tell her, like, how do you tell someone that? Like, she never taught us about that. Like the
Right.
birds and bees and stuff like that. So I
Hmm.
would write about it. And I was watching Women That I don't know why I'm going this direction, y'all. I'm sorry. But I was watching Women Thou Art Loose by T.D. Jakes. And
Hmm.
that's what made me open my mouth. And I felt good after I opened my mouth then. I was like, that's what I'm gonna do for now. Open my mouth, say how I feel, but be respectful. But
Right.
I'm gonna say how I feel, and I want everybody to be able to come on my platform, learn something, speak how they feel, but we keep it respectful. I don't know why I got
Absolutely.
off subject, Dr. Holloway, but maybe I
Well,
need to
you
say
it
that for
all it
somebody.
all what I've been on several different podcasts and they all are different. It's just like when you go to Baskin Robbins, it's all ice cream, but they all different flavors, but still ice cream. I like that this is kind of it reminds me of just being at your grandmother kitchen table. And somebody will say something and then sponge you this and that and that. And so we're just having a good old fashioned down home Mississippi conversation.
Yeah.
Because when you were talking about that, I thought about I do have a book, and the book is on Little Miss Linda Speaks Out about rape. And Black women
Hmm.
has had to deal with that from the beginning of time until now. So, like you said, being able to open your mouth, we even came up in an environment that said a closed mouth won't get fed. And so, out
Hmm.
of that, and we would be around the older women and you would come in mumbling. They say, I don't know what you're saying. I don't know. Mumbling is a word. They say, open up your mouth. And then they would tell you to, kind of speak out because I can't hear you. You got to open
Right.
up. So that gave us courage to be
Hmm.
able to open up and begin to share. And sometimes we knew the danger that if we open our mouth, because if you look at Maya Angelou, is it Maya Angelou? She felt that it was her opening her mouth that caused the young man to to get killed. And so for 3 years, she didn't talk. And so most of the time people say, why would you write a children book and use the term rape? And I said the same way I use the term death. There are a lot of euphemism, kicking up daisies and crossed over Jordan. But, at the end of the day, we got to talk about that. And so being able to say somebody was raped, somebody was sexual assault, being able to put language to it that people can begin to say that's not a dirty word, but what has happened to you, it's was not good. And so being able to do that is very important.
And see, I'm glad you said that rape is not a dirty word, because you saw I said SA, because I was like, I don't want people to think. But that's
Amen.
something that a lot of people don't know about me, that I was actually raped when I was in the third grade by my cousins. Two cousins did that to me, and they repeated it for years until Hurricane Katrina came. That was how I got released from them doing that to me. And I didn't tell my grandmother till about 2006 ish, after watching that TD Jakes movie, because I just couldn't
Hmm.
believe. I'm like, oh my God, that girl going through the same thing I went through. And the first thing my grandma said was, don't tell nobody.
Hmm.
I'ma handle it. And when she said it, I was like, don't tell nobody. And so he just happened to call from jail. Mind you, he got sent to jail for something he didn't even do. He did 35 years for something he didn't even do. And my grandma's like, she tried to use it. That was God's way of getting him back for what he did to me. But I don't look at it like that, because I felt like it was important then for her to try to get me some type of help. She never got me help for that. And as a result of that, I began to be fast at a young age. I had my first baby. I was 18 going, I turned 19 when I had him. I was just doing things. I didn't feel loved. I had low self-esteem. I was depressed. I felt abandoned because my dad wasn't in my life and stuff like that. And she just made me really want to keep my mouth shut. And then one day I just got tired of being quiet. So I went to telling everybody. Everybody that asked about it, I'm telling them. She was so mad at me. And I think it was because she was the head mother of the church, and she was held to a certain standard. And I think she didn't want people to know that had happened in her
Hmm.
home while she was working, trying to take care of us. But I wish I could have told, like, that didn't make you a bad parent because that happened to me. That wasn't your fault. You left us with them because you trusted them. We're family. You would have thought we were siblings. But to this day, it still affects me sometimes.
Right,
Um,
absolutely.
I don't really like being touched. I'll hug someone, but
Hmm.
I'm not gonna hug you for long. I don't really like being touched. Um, it's hard when you're in a relationship. You can't really be intimate the way you want to, because certain things remind you of.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I'm trying to get to that point where I move past that. But like I said, this is my first time publicly speaking about that. A lot of people
Hmm.
don't know that unless you're just a close friend of mine.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
like I tell people, I said, I've been through a lot of things, and people see me on here laughing and hee-heeing and interviewing
Hmm.
folks,
Hmm.
but I've been through a lot too, and I'm still learning and growing every day. But I'm gonna need some of your books, because I really feel your books can help me, because I'm not the type to really sit down in front of a psychiatrist or therapist. My doctors have tried to do that, with having me sit down with somebody, and then I go, and one doctor told me, she was like, have you ever thought about maybe you were just born into trauma? I was like, no. Then I start back thinking, like, my family was very traumatic. To this day, my family
Hmm.
is still very traumatic. Going around some of them would definitely trigger the trauma in you. Like my dad, I just learned to have a relationship with him. He's not the best individual. He chose the streets over being a father. But out of all my siblings, I try to build some type of relationship with him. I'm trying to learn to forgive him. Even though he'll do good for a while and go back to what he was doing, I try to forgive him. So even though my cousins did that to me, I forgive them, but I stay away from them. And I don't
Absolutely.
really allow my children to go around them, because I'm
Right.
just afraid. And so I
Right.
be asking the Lord, like, Lord, do I really forgive them if I don't talk to them, if I don't allow my kids to interact with them and their children and stuff? So I'm still working. I'm a work in progress, but
But
yeah.
forgiveness is doesn't have to mean that they have to be in your social circle. I can
Hmm.
forgive you, but I don't necessarily have to interact with you. So and also people get forgiveness mixed up with forget. They'll say, I'll, but I won't forget. But the thing about it is we carry all of these wounds, we push them down somewhere, and then eventually they will come up. So your body keeps score. And that's a book that you might want to take a look at. And if you don't mind, I'm not sure where we are on time. I wouldn't mind sharing each of my books with your audience
Go right
and those
ahead.
who
Let
say,
me see him, girl. Let me
okay, this
see
is I'm gonna put it over my face so it can be in the camera.
him.
This
I
is
love
I
my
love
happy
my
hair.
hair. This is the first one, and you talked about mental health. mental wellness. So I hope you get comfortable around that it's okay to go see a therapist, because if you broke your foot, you would go to a podiatrist. So when we're broken inside and we have things that we need to talk about, and I almost want to say that every therapist may not be that person for you, just like a doctor. So you just shop around and find someone, like you mentioned earlier, you were an energy person. So find someone that actually you can connect with. So this is Little Miss Linda Goes to Counseling. This is Little Miss Linda talk about sickle cell disease that is
Okay.
very prevalent in our community that don't get talked about a lot.
Yeah.
This is Little Miss Linda speaks out about rape. This is Little Miss Linda speaks out about diversity.
I love these covers.
And this is Little Miss Lynn. This is Bad Girls of Montgomery. And you notice that
Okay.
these are women who participated in the Montgomery bus
Okay.
boycott movement. And BAD really stands for bold and determined. So in this particular book, Little Miss Linda takes a trip from where? I can't
I
hear
like
nobody.
that. I
Mount
like that.
Bayou, Mississippi to Montgomery. Yay. So it
I
has
like that,
history.
child. Y'all know what y'all be saying? Clock it. Okay.
This is Little Miss Linda cope with divorce. Her parents, she knew them as happy people, but they're sitting her down and they're going through a divorce, talking about season of life. For everything, there's a season.
Wow.
And this is Little Miss Linda talks, speaks out about death. A mother goes to the doctor, just have a regular checkup, and she finds out she has cancer. She only has so long to live. So they begin to make memories together. And this is what this is about.
See, I love that book. That reminds me about that is so wild. That reminds me of when the doctors told me a year ago. I keep saying this, a year ago they told me I wasn't gonna be here. And I remember having to call my sister. Me and her wasn't talking at the time. We was mad at each other for something, but I had to call her
Hmm.
because I'm like, look, these folks said I'm dying. And she was like, I'm coming to take care of you. And she moved in with me, she helped me.
Oh,
And I
that's
remember I
wonderful.
had to sit my babies down and I
Right.
had to tell them because I wasn't sure. For the first time, I let them folks tell me I was gonna die, and I actually believed it. Most times, I'm like, whatever, God got me. But this particular time, I was very fearful, and I sat down with my kids and I explained to them what was going on. My oldest son knows because I take him with me to appointments. So if
Mm,
something happens while we're home alone, he can help me.
mm-hmm,
And so, I remember when I told him, and he didn't take it well. And then just a month ago, I had a scare. I had a knot to pop back up where I just had surgery. And I thought it was the cancer coming back. And the doctors thought it was the cancer. And my son, his whole demeanor changed in that room. He didn't like that. He was like, Lord, I can't lose my mama. And I said,
mm-hmm,
I'm not going nowhere. I'm gonna be all right. And so I just came home and I said, Lord, you know my kids need me. I said, you knew what I went through when I was younger, when my mom passed when I was 3. Me and my sister was passed around from person to person to person till my grandmother took a whole year off of work to get custody of us. Everybody wanted us because my mom won this big lawsuit before she passed with her job. She was injured on her job, which was a result that contributed to her passing away. But
mm-hmm,
my grandmother took a whole year off to get us, and she didn't want us separated. And I always think about that with my kids. I'm like, Lord, please just keep me here till they
mm-hmm,
grown and on their
mm-hmm.
own. I want to see some grandbabies, stuff
Amen.
like that. And I said, because I don't want them to go through what I've been through. And so, yeah, uh, yeah, that last book got me. It got me. It got me.
Well, good. And so you can find these books on all online platforms. You can also get them at Amazon. So I just
Okay,
want to
you
tell your
guys.
audience or future people when they come back and listen to it that where they can actually purchase these books from.
I'm sorry, Miss Adrian really enjoyed herself on here today. She said you done helped her.
Oh,
I
fantastic.
know she gonna call
Wonderful.
me and we gonna talk about this because this was Dr. Holloway. First off, thank you for coming on. Thank you for finding me and for sharing your gift with me. I really enjoyed this. You have really helped me a lot. I feel much better about my day after talking with you
Well,
because, like I said,
fantastic. I hope
some
this is not the end all be all that we can continue to interact. Thank you for accepting the invitation, and I'm super excited about being here. Because one thing about podcasts, everybody may not be here to listen today, but they can always go back and
Mhm.
listen to it. So I
Yes.
appreciate what you do for other people to help them get their information out here. And I will tell anybody that this is a great platform to be on, and just be yourself and tell the world about your gifts, and don't let this podcast just sit over in the corner. You yourself, don't depend on Chantel to get it out and wonder what she's going to do about it. Ask yourself, you post it, you get other people to post it, you get the information out there, because she has given us the platform, she's given us what we need, and now it's our turn to take that and do what we need to it. Just think about it. When you go to the grocery store and you buy grocery, they provided a place for you to buy grocery, but they don't come home and cook it for you and then put
Right.
it in your mouth. So now it's our opportunity. So I do plan on sharing it, loading it in my YouTubes and sharing it around, and if I find an opportunity to put it even in my classroom to share with my students.
Oh, I would love that. Thank you. And also, y'all, next month we got something for y'all up our sleeve now. We got something for y'all. So this is not the last that you will hear of Dr. Holloway. Y'all come back next month because we got something up our sleeve. And if y'all think she beautiful now, wait till she drop them pictures, y'all. Wait till she drop them. She is beautiful. You are beautiful inside and out. I really appreciate you for coming on here today. I'm gonna go back and watch this live with my kids because I want them to hear some of this stuff, and I'm
Mhm.
definitely going to be purchasing some of those books because I really believe they can not only help my children, but they can help me, and I can also pass them down to my nieces, and it'll
Right,
help them. So
absolutely.
yes. So before we go, what is one thing you would like to leave with the viewers? Anything encouraging, whatever you feel. One thing. What would you leave with them today?
I would leave, especially in these times, keep your head up. And I know that sounds really simple. And every day your head may not be at 100%, but if it's at 90, 10, whatever percentage it is, remind me of when Dr. Martin Luther King talks about, if you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, walk. If you can't walk, crawl. And I just would add to it, when you can't crawl, scoot.
Yep. Whatever you got to
whatever,
do.
whatever you got to do to keep
Yes.
on moving and keep your head up.
Yes. So once again, this was our first episode of Standing on Business, the podcast, y'all. I'm super excited to be back. I thought my hands been sweating the whole time, y'all. I've been nervous, but that'll go away eventually. But thank you so
Absolutely.
much, Dr. Holloway. I really enjoyed this live. The viewers enjoyed the live. Adrian definitely enjoyed the live, and I'm definitely going to get some of them books for her because she can really use the encouragement.
Me
And a
too.
lot of us really can. So I'm going to find a way to purchase some of those books and give them out here because people need to read those books. And I really feel like it'll help your children, but it'll help you too. So you guys tune in. I think the next interview is this Saturday with Sarita, the Solar Princess. She does yoga. So we'll be
Okay.
talking about yoga. So make sure y'all tune in this Saturday, same time. And thank y'all for tuning in. Bye.
Bye.